listen to it at their house.
Correct.
Gotta be here.
That's fine.
Was that your, oh no, that was a quirky, sorry. All right, questions, technologies, things that you've learned in class, you haven't clearly understand.
Well, I guess when it comes to React,
Okay.
state, like talking about that and understanding that fully would be really helpful.
All right, let's do that. State, React state. All right, that's good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just lost about the
Components. Okay, let's actually do that.
don't get it why they have to be so
Components.
componentized.
Okay, any other things?
In talking to people, I've gotten mixed messages. Some people say that aside from the most simple, basic application imaginable, once you get to the point of you're actually doing something,
Mhm.
you should use Redux with React.
Okay.
Other
Yeah.
people say, no, not until you've written 10 million lines of code.
That's actually a really good question, and I'm gonna tell you why you should use Redux, okay? Let's actually talk about this as Redux. And we're gonna talk this one about a topic. Okay?
And again, I'm gonna hop the question.
Mhm.
React Native versus React.
Alright, that's actually another good question.
It's just acting crazy.
And I'm gonna give you more options regarding React Native.
It's
Why is there no React appellation?
Alright, React Native compare or versus React. Any other questions?
You know, talking about like smart and dumb components.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're gonna open a whole different topics about this. Deep. We're gonna go 5 level deep down here, okay?
Like,
Any other questions?
so not React, but
Okay.
Express, doing the get inputs, those are kind of.
Alright, let's do that. Express. Express, get, and post, right? Okay. Let's got two more.
Okay, so for our project,
Okay.
we weren't
It's
able to
online.
retrieve
See the green light blinking.
the information
I
from
calibrate.
our DOM.
Oh, you were not able to retrieve the
Or we
Calibrate.
were able to retrieve it,
Touches.
but we weren't able to
Success.
display
It says touch.
to the dump.
Yeah.
So you were able to retrieve it, but you were not
Yes,
able
it was
to.
shown in the console log.
But you were not able to. Okay.
But it's not really working.
Okay. And that's actually on part of your project, right? Okay, so here's the other interesting
No, I
thing that I'm
attempted
gonna
to.
do. I'm gonna take your
They tell us
project
don't-
live and I'm gonna
They tell us-
debug it.
Yeah, yes.
Don't tell
us.
One,
Debug
two,
it.
three, four,
I'm
five.
trying to reboot that
We
unit.
don't get to it, so
So,
I gotta get down
here's the
here.
reason I'm gonna take on this challenge, okay?
Nice work.
For a few reasons, and here's one. You guys are gonna see how I look at somebody's code, okay? And not only about looking at his code, but how do I look at the folder structure and how do I debug an entire application? Because once you get your first job, you're not gonna be starting from scratch. You're gonna be starting from a massive code base. In case you guys might be wondering, guess what? At work right now, we got one big massive code base, but guess what? We got 13 other repos, like within the companies, 13 other big source code. So you having the ability to look at somebody else's project right on spot can easily help you out. Okay. Take your project, loan it out, debug. One more. One last. Topics. Any? That's it? Any last one?
I'm sure we could
Hey,
maybe
it
talk about
works.
Mongo
It's working.
database-wise.
It's on laptop.
Database, right? Okay.
I
That's
feel like we got everything else. but-
okay.
It's
So
over here.
we might not have
It's
time to
working.
talk about this
It's on
But
laptop.
we'll definitely, if we have time,
Yeah,
we'll
it's
definitely
working.
talk with this, okay?
But as you point, you're talking about reaction reduction and so forth, if it was
Now we gotta get it to
an
unmute.
appropriate moment to spend 30 seconds, what the blank
It's crazy.
Huh, yeah, I'll definitely cover that. so I'll
The
definitely
way
have that.
things, whatever. So
Okay.
There's something else you can do to make
Okay,
it.
fine. Alright, so remember, when I first started, I said, I'm here to answer probably every question, right? And the other thing that I said, it's not only answer to your questions, but give you an idea of what's out there.
It's, the
Give you an
mute is stuff.
idea of, hey, you heard about Redux, but is there something else out there? Hey, you heard about Express, but is that's it? Like, is that it? Do I have to just talk to this, or should I use something else? Or why do we use certain things, okay? Well, we're still having some technical issue, which is fine.
I'm
One
gonna
of the
push
things I would
this-
like to toggle is this.
Push this up a little bit.
Let's
Okay,
talk
not
about
too far.
Redux. Can somebody here tell me,
Right there, right there. We got
what is
cables
Redux?
connected.
What do you
Okay.
understand Redux is all about? You can guess, say anything.
Gotta bring it back a little bit.
I really
Chris.
just genuinely understand that it's for management of state.
Okay. That's good. So he said
Yeah,
the
cable.
management
Oh,
of state.
let me hit
Does
connect
everybody
to
got
the
that?
desk.
Rip that up.
Does everybody got that? Okay. Now, my question to you is, what is a state?
Okay, so
Anybody want to guess? That's fine. You can
now
say
unmute is off.
Redux, according to his definition, is the management of state. But the question is, what is a state?
is the total combination of.
See if that warms up.
variables.
Okay. That's good. Somebody else want to add something?
I guess from my understanding, it's based on what you're trying to pull for the user to see, it's whatever that information is at the time.
Okay, good, awesome. That's good. You guys coming together. Okay, so let's kind of break it down, okay? Let's kind of break it down. When we as a developer
Okay,
are
there we
building
go.
an application, it doesn't matter what we
So
do.
we gonna
In order
move
for
this
the
back
application
very
to
slowly.
work, it cannot just work on itself, of course, okay? When we're building an application, when we're thinking about technology-wise, we need CSS, HTML, and some JavaScript, of course, some Node and Express, right? But when we put them together, the application just doesn't look red, or let's say the background is blue, the button is a little bit interesting, or things like that. There are some data that are flowing into this application. Should be good? Okay. Thank you. So there are some data that are flowing into your application. And those data is going to be what your application is going to depend on in order for it to work. For example, thank you. For example, let's say we went to, I guess that's the perfect example, right? We went to a website like this called Google, right? Before we think about any data, if we clear out every single data, here's what we'll solve. A blank search with no logo, 2 buttons, empty, nothing into it, right? And then an icon probably, but there's no word. That means there's no data at all, an empty application. Now, what happened? We got some data, right? We got a data here called Google search. We got another data here called I'm feeling lucky. We might have some other things else, it doesn't matter. What matters is the way this application is looking now, that's their state. Which means like, hey, when we look at this application, it has a state called Google search. It has another state, it has another data within the state called I'm feeling lucky. Well, here's what's gonna happen. Oops, sorry. What happened? The state changed. What changed? Not the look. Okay, get that. Get this one, okay? Not the look. Okay? Not the look. But what changes is, do we see the Google search word again? No. Do we see the I'm feeling lucky? No. What happened? The state of this application changes, but the question still remains. Still, okay, I got this, but what's the state? Well, the state is the data that manages your application. Here's how it manages. On the home page, it managed to put the data about two things: search or I'm feeling lucky. What happened when I click search? It managed your application again to return all these data. So the bottom line is a state, it's what manages your application in displaying the right data. In building a real-life application, you need to think, okay, if my users go to the home page, what should be the state of the home page? Okay? When the user click this, I should be using the state to manage the user from the home page and taking them to the other page. So one more time, every single application should have a state in order for it to work. State doesn't just work with React. It means that every application, either they're using React or not, they have a state. Now, let's take it into more development standpoint, okay? When we look at a developable code, what could be the state? Is it just a string? No. The state, it's just a big object of data. Let me say that one more time. A state, it's a big object of data. It's massive. Like it's huge. Huge. Let me see if I can find a quick example for you. I'm gonna show you one of my work example. Give me one quick second. Oops. Give me 1 second. All right, so let's switch over here. And I'm gonna go to my, awesome tutors. All right, so let's take this example, okay? Oops. All right, so let's take this example. We have this application. When we look at it, so while we talk about state, everybody seems to understand, okay, so I understand. That means that all these view has nothing to do with the state. The state is all this information that's displayed. But all this information, it's a big, massive of data, right? Well, here's what we do at Cox. Here's what we do. This widget, let me kind of scroll it a little bit. This widget, as you guys can see it over here, this is our app. Like the sidebar, it's our app. But in order for it to work, we need a state. Let me show you guys the state, in case you guys are curious. All right, so I'm gonna head over the network tab. When I refresh the page, check this one out. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading. And then I'm gonna look for something once the app appear. You see where it's an init app? Guess what's in there? Inside of this, that's where the state application holds. Let's click on it. Oops. Let's call it to the response. Oops, sorry. Jeez. What do you guys see? A big, massive object. Once again, a big, massive object. All right, well, let's see what's inside of it, right? I'm hoping. So in our application over here, we see something called we see the price. Let's actually see if I can copy this price. Actually, it's right here. You see that? It's right here. All right, let's get back to business. If everybody asks you, so what is a state? A state, it's a big object that controls your application. Now, what is Redux? Redux is a state management. What does that mean? Well, Redux controls that object. What do you mean by control? Well, here's what it does. It controls when to add data into it. It also controls when to remove data into it. It also controls when to delete data into it. So Redux, if you want to put it into something more understandable, Redux is just an object that gives you functionality to remove and add data easily, or AKA give data to your entire application, right? Now, okay, Sterling, this all seems making sense. I understand this is just an object. I understand what a state is, but I'm still a little bit confused about Redux. And why do we use Redux today? When we're thinking about building an application, we can just build an object and the application start working, right? Well, here's the issue, and here's why Redux come into existence today. And before I talk about this, does everybody have any question? Does everybody feel like they're still not understanding what a state is? Is everybody cool?
The only thing I would say is because I'm the front end person, like at heart, I'm not disconnecting or
Okay.
the view with, like, I understand that it's the data, but I don't understand, I guess, how that, so within a component, there's state within that for
Okay.
all of the data pieces.
Mhm.
So, I'm trying to
No, let's
Okay,
forget React for now.
okay,
Forget React. Forget component.
okay,
You want to bring them in because React state is a little bit different. Okay.
okay,
If you want to bring React, it's gonna bring more confusion. Keep it simple. Let's
Okay.
think about a state, just big object that your applications need. Okay, does that make sense?
yes.
We're gonna come back to React in a second, okay?
Okay.
Good? Any other questions? All right. Now here's my advice. When you're building an application, it doesn't matter what you build. The first thing that you should do is build out your state of your application. What data do you need? That should be your first step. And here's how they call it. Or here's how they're gonna do it more often. They kind of like lay it out. Let me show you a quick example of a real world experience, okay? I'm gonna pull in my email and give me one quick second. I'm gonna show you a state of an application that we about to build. Oops. Let's see, chart. Crap. JD. There you go. Okay. And view document. Okay. No text. Where is it? Share with me. All right. Give me 1 second. All right. A big, massive object of every data that my applications needs. Once again, if you're building an application, you start with some CSS layout, you start with some model. Trust me, you're gonna come to a point where you don't know what to do else. But before that, you lay out every single data that you need, and then your application is going to depend on it. This is an entire state of data that we're about to do. Any questions about the state? Does that make sense for everyone? All right, we'll see. All right, we'll see. Any questions? All right, back to Redux. Why do we use Redux today? Why Redux? Like if state is just an object, like anybody can create an object, right? Everyone can create an object into an application. Like why do we use Redux today? Well, here's the issue that Redux is solving. When we have a big object in building an application, we are more likely to have more than one page. Okay? We have the home page, the dashboard page, every other pages. Well, here's what's happening. Let's say we have two different components, okay? We got two different components. One component for the home page and one component for the dashboard page, whatever, right? Well, every single one of them have a state per page. Well, here's the issue. For them to share the same data within the state, it's impossible because they're on two different layouts. They are two different layouts, right? They are two different pages. Well, Redux is solving the problem of when you have your state, which means you have a big object. This big object is available throughout your entire application, which means the home page can use that object, the dashboard page can use that object, any single pages in your application can use that object. Does that make sense? Any questions? All right. I know this might sound a little bit confusing, and the whole reason we did this is because we didn't have access to this, and it's a little bit blurry. And I'm gonna change actually. Hold on. I don't think I can change, but anyway, okay, we'll figure something out. But anyway, does that make sense for everyone about this state? And does that answer to your question about Redux? Still a little bit confusing. No.
So far, it's not confusing.
Okay.
But each individual page, and now I'm speaking from the project that we did.
Okay.
Yes, it had information that I could say was part of that state.
Okay.
But every page doesn't need all of them.
No.
And so in our project, each page would contact me back in and so each page had its own state information.
Yeah.
When I went to another page, I would ping them back in, get the state information that was needed for this second page.
Mhm.
Do some work. Then if I go back again to this original page, I get the back end again and get my new state information. So I understand that this is like all
Yeah.
of the state,
Exactly.
but what is the rule of thumb?
Okay,
Because
here's the
I
rule.
can do individual pages, individual components, and get a database to get the state information that's only relevant for that page.
Here's the rule of thumb about Redux. Two features. Remember, this whole data is available for you throughout your application. It doesn't matter which pages you're on. It doesn't matter which page. Here's two features for Redux. You can choose to not grab every data from this object to certain component. That's one feature. But here's the other feature. When one data changes within that object, it changes everywhere that's using this data. Does that make sense? If the data changes within this object, it doesn't matter if you're using it in 5 different pages, if you're using it in 10 different pages, wherever you're using this piece of data, it's actually going to change everywhere. Two features, once again. You can choose to use a certain part of the object, not all of them. That's one feature. The second feature is if a data changes within the state, it doesn't matter where you change it, it's going to change it everywhere through your application. That's why Redux is so popular today. And in case you might be wondering, what else after Redux? Well, here's the other thing. There's something out there right now that is getting a lot of popularity that FreeCodeCamp uses called RxJS. RxJS. It's the same concept. If you understand Redux, you will understand all of them. That's also a state management. There's another one right now called Vuex. There's another one called Vuex. These are the 3 big popular of state applications. Okay, all right, so I got this, but if I'm building an application with React, which one should I use? Or if I'm building an application with Angular, which one should I use? Well, React highly recommend to use Redux because it happens to work really well. But Redux, it's not part of React. Redux can work with jQuery. Redux can work with anything. It just happens to work really well with React. RxJS happens to work really well with Angular. If you want to choose Angular, Angular has a state management as well called RxJS. If you want to use Vue.js, which is going to be the next big revolution of front end, and it's actually getting a lot of popularity more than React, you need to use Vuex. Once again, if you're building an application, you need to think about choosing your state of your application, okay? Building this entire object. And once you do, and then you can choose a state management. And when should you choose a state management? You know the question. When should you use them? Well, here's when you should use them. If your application is going to have more than 3 pages, you should definitely, mostly, heavily choose a state management. Let's say that one more time. If your application is going to have more than 3 pages, you should or must choose a state management. How many state management there are out there right now? That I said 3. What are them? Redux. What is Redux? State management. What is a state? It's a big object. Does that make sense for everyone? Any questions?
I just want to make sure, are you saying Rex?
RxJS.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
thank you, sorry. Just needed to make sure.
Type RxJS npm, something like that. You should be able to see. Let's make sure this is the right one to see. Not screw it. Yep, this is it.
Okay. Just wanna make sure I have the right.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Any questions about state redux? Does that make clear for everyone? I know this is a big topic. You know, I'm not expecting you to fully dive into it, but that's the whole concept behind an application. It doesn't matter which application you're using. The big application out there right now have a state. If you come to your job, you come to your first job, believe it or not. You come to your first job, and you're trying to figure out some CSS bugs, some padding issues, trust me, it will take you months or even can put you fired because you're not understanding the state of the application you're working on. The first thing that I did when I joined Compass is understanding the state of the application. And guess what? In 2 weeks, I was telling them things that they didn't expect to happen because some developers, they just fix some CSS issues. They just fix some Angular, some JavaScript issues. But they don't really understand the entire state of the application. Does that make sense? Any questions? Is that clear to everyone? Any other question? Good? Okay. So, we talk about this, right? Well, somebody mentioned about thought, and remember, we haven't done any coding, but somebody mentioned about thought, right? Well, here is, and this is gonna get a little bit interesting. I'm not gonna use this because I don't think you guys can see it. I'm actually gonna use this. Back to the state, okay? Everybody understands state now. Okay, so let's just talk about something else. All right, I'm about to talk about something else. Before I move on, there's something that is really interesting that I want you to understand. And this is what's confusing everybody about React, even freezing or scaring people to death. Let me say that one more time. This is what freaking everybody out about React. When somebody get into React, the first thing they say, oh my gosh, like this is confusing. Like what is a state? I mean, oh, just changes. Got it. Now, here's the other interesting thing. Back to Redux. We're gonna get into React. Okay, we're about to dive into React. Back into React. When you have a state in React, in Redux, the data is inside the object. It is immutable. What does that mean? Let me say it one more time. You have the data that's inside Redux. This is what I'm about to come into React, and we're actually going to do some coding today, okay? The data that's inside your state management, it doesn't matter which one, UX, all X, whatever it is immutable. What does that mean? That means you cannot change it. So are you sure? That means you cannot change it. Are you sure about that? Yes, I am sure. Well, how do we change the data? Here's how we change the data. Let's say we have a data here called user, blah, 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 whatever, age, right? Well, how do we change this data? Remember, technically talking, this is our state, right? Well, how do we change the data? In order to change it, we need to make a copy of this data. And then, let's say this is the copy. This is the copy. Remember, this is our original data. In order to change it, we make a copy, and then we change the copy. Let me say that one more time, because I'm about to dash straight into React, and that's going to be solving one issue. Okay? Let me say that one more time. The data that's inside your state management, it is immutable, which means nobody can change it. If you want to change it, you need to make a copy. And then you change the copy. And now let's go straight into React. Let's talk about React state. We're targeting this topic right now. Let's talk about React state. React state. And in order to talk about this, I'm actually going to be doing some coding. And let's see. Give me one quick second, guys. Let's see if I can make this a little bit clearer. I'm hoping. Can you guys see this better? Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's a little bit big, but I'm going to try to see because
Do the lights go off, like in the front, and that?
the lights in the front.
Like versus the back, and like this part be darker so that it'll be
Yeah,
easier
let
to
me
see.
see where you turn off the lights. I think this is it. There you go. There you go. Okay. Do you want to turn everyone over there? Let's turn the other
Oh, I
one.
guess it helps.
Oh, is it good? I guess it's good, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Let's do it. Okay. Well, just give me 1 second because it doesn't look good on my end. And okay.
Oh, Sterling, while you're doing that,
Mhm.
a quick question. So this copy and then the original,
Mm-hmm.
where are those hosted, I guess? Where are they at? Because it seems like the original would be,
Mhm.
I guess, in the component or not. I don't know. Where.
So the Redux itself will use the copy. Will technically, it has some logic behind the scene that will technically now consider this as the new data within the state.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a little bit interesting behind the scene. That's what's happening for you. But the bottom line is the new copy will become your new state.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
sorry, just to clarify, is that just with Redux or is that with the normal React state as well?
No,
Is there-
that's it. That's just with Redux and the React state. Not every single state management. That's just with Redux and the React state. Any question? All right. Here's what I just did. I just created a React app. Any question about that? I'm assuming everybody's fine with this, right? Okay. All right. So. Okay, so let's see what happened. Just got some data over here. Oops. There you go. Okay. Oops. And then I can just do this. Okay. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to be creating a very simple state. I'm going to be using this state over here. Okay, and then let's see our application. All right, here's our state has a username and we're consuming that username down here. And as you can see, I have Sterling. Let's get back to the code and let's move this code down here.
Sterling, before you take off, you might talk about the constructor and the super,
Yeah.
because although almost everything you do in React calls for using that, and all the examples and docs call for that,
Yeah.
none of our class activities do.
No
A lot of
problem.
people haven't seen it.
Hey, that's actually one of the reasons that I'm here, okay? But let's kind of hold on to the constructor for now. Trust me. I'm going to be talking about every single things in big details. And before I do this, I hope the whole Redux things make sense for everybody. Is that clear? All right. Remember one thing I said, right? The state, either in Redux or in React, it's immutable, right? Which means that you cannot change the data, right? In order to change it in Redux, you have to make a copy and then you change the copy, okay? You don't need to learn Redux today, but you need to understand the concept in order to work with it, okay? Now let's go straight into React. React state, it's immutable, which means you cannot change it. Say that one more time. Which means you cannot change it. Okay, Stella, okay, that's getting interesting. But I'm building an application. The user might change the username. Like, how do we handle this case? Well, the React team built a built-in function for you called setState. And behind the scene, they are making a copy of the state and changing the piece of the copy that you want to change. Say that one more time. Just want to make sure that everybody understands this before I move on, okay? You cannot change a React state. If you want to change it, what do you think you have to do? Use what function? What's it called? Set state. And here's how we use it. And don't worry, anything you see, I'm going to be describing them in a second. Component did mount. All right, you use it, you do this, that's set state. And I'm
gonna do this a different ways. Change.
So in that component did mount, I know in React Native, I got a lot of messages saying that that was deprecated. Is that the same for React or just like is that not valid?
The component did mount.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't fully worked with React Native, but I know they kind of one thing that React Native is. I'll quickly touch over this. But one thing they're doing is the React DOM. They trying to like isolate this from the React Native and make it React Native dependable on itself, and the React to be more focused for the browser. So they're working on taking a lot of the features, such as the component did mount, from the React Native because they want React Native to be isolated on its own for more development focuses. Where React itself was a little bit kind of general because some of the pieces you use from React, you can use it in React Native as well, which we can cover this in a little deep, but let's actually keep moving a little bit and remind me to kind of go back on this, okay? All right, so let's do something very basic. I'm gonna delete all of these guys and add something like this. Okay, and everything you see me do it, I'm gonna go over every single one of them in great details, okay? And oops, I'm gonna. Okay. All right. So here's a basic application. When we look at this application, the first thing we need to think about is what is the state of this application? Well, the state is probably three type of data, just a username from the state, and probably a dynamic button. We don't know unless we look at the state of the application. The change could have been a data too. We don't know, but this is the state of the application for now, right? Remember, the Axime Sterling is from the state. The only way to change it is by using this set state. And here's what I'm doing. When I click this button, I am firing this function, which means I'm invoking this function. And this function is using this set state, which is the only way to change the state is in React. Okay? So the expected behavior of this application is when I click this button, it should be changing the data inside my state. But here's one thing. Remember one thing I said about Redux. If you change the data inside the object, it doesn't matter where you're using it. It's going to be changing everywhere you are using it. Let's click it. Does that make sense? But the only way to change the data inside your state is with this set state that set state. Any questions about this? Right now, everybody should be clear about this that set state. Any questions regarding this topic? All right, now the question is, okay, Stone, I got this, but how do we define a state? Back to your question. There is constructors, there is super, right? There is constructor, there is super. Like how, if I want to build a React application, how do I define my state? Well, here's the good news. There are two ways to define a state of your application in React. Here's the first way. The first way is just state. And that's it.
You can have like many things.
Many things inside of it. Correct. The second way, and let's see if this one works actually. Refresh. Yes, it still works. Well, the second way is by using the constructor keyword. But what is this constructor thing? What is it? Why do we have to use it? Where does it come from? Is it part of React? Or what is this thing? What is it? Right? That's a good question. Where does it come from? Well, it's the good news is, or the bad news, however you guys want to take it, it's not part of React.
It's JavaScript.
Exactly. Does that make sense for everyone? It's from the new version of JavaScript. If you guys keep up to date, what is the new version of JavaScript called? ES6 and ES7. Well, this constructor keyword, it's the new version of ES6. Well, how do we use it? Well, here's how we use it. Down here, you see where there's this parenthesis? Down here, we can pass different parameters, which means that we can pass name, thirst, whatever it is, but one that is more likely to pass into it, it's something called props, which we're going to talk in a second. The bottom line is, where this cursor is at, there is potential cases where some other data to come in. We're talking ES6, not React, okay? What's happened is, when those data came in, whatever type of data we came in, we're talking about ES6. The way we're going to define our application is going to be my app and some data that's coming in. This data represent here. And according to ES6, when you use the constructor, you have to use the super keyword. According to ES6, when you use the super, you have to use, when you use the constructor, you have to use the keyword super.
Has been my opinion that that is only true if your class extends another one, because I've been creating classes for the last 6 months in the course, and until I encountered classes that inherited from another class, I never used it.
Good question. He just said a word that is actually really important. I'm glad you bring this up. He said the word extends in order to class. So what does it mean? Remember one thing I said. I said when you use the constructor, you have to use the super keyword. But he said in some cases that he's used before, he's never had to use it, right? Well, why do I say that? And here's why. There's something in programming world called mutation. Say that again. There's something in programming world. Let me write this down. Called mutations. What is mutations? A little bit higher topic, but I wanted to come why we should always use the super keyword. Okay? Mutations is the fact of you being able to change the data without making a copy. If you want to put it this way, you know when you have an object, for example, I'll quickly show you. When you have an object like this, and then you want to change the data. You want to change the username. Oops, I can just call this Patrick, right? This is changing the data username name to Patrick. Is that right? You guys familiar with this, right? Well, this process is called mutation. And this is what AngularJS, let me say that clear, not Angular, okay? AngularJS was using before. And then React comes into place and proved the AngularJS team that mutations is not the best way to build a scalable, I just say one word, a scalable application by using mutation. So the bottom line is the React team proved the Angular team that, hey, you build a great library called AngularJS, but you're using mutation, and that's just wrong. And they come with a new concept called reconciliation. What is reconciliation? The React teams, the whole idea they built React is the whole concept of reconciliation. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up is to show you why you should always use the super keyword, okay? I know this is a little bit over your head, but I really want to show you why you should be using this. What is reconciliation? Well, reconciliation is the little brother of a mutation. Or if you want to put it that way, if the data changes one places, it changes everywhere, right? That's the whole concept behind React, and that's one of the reasons that they have this virtual DOM, right? All right, Sterling. Well, I kind of understanding this, but how does make sense with the super keyword? Like, how does this kind of work together? Well, when we're using reconciliation, here's one thing we do. We extend object with new properties a lot. Well, when you're using the class keyword, when we're using the class keyword, using constructor and using the super keyword, right? And here's what happened. We use the super keyword to what he said, to whenever we are extending this class from another class. Is that right? Yep, right?
Yeah.
Well, React itself works with reconciliation, which means that when you're building a massive application that is potentially have the chance to scale, you always need to leave room to extend in your object, which means if you're using a class, it's always best to use the super keyword because you never know when you might extend that class. Does that answer to your question?
Not quite. Another thing that I've seen in the work that I've been doing is that the props is also passed as a parameter to the super. So in here, you have constructor props and then super with no arguments.
No, you will be passing down. I just forgot to pass it. Let's actually add it right now. Hold on. How about that?
Okay. And does the child inherit the methods of the class that it extends?
Correct. Every child that you've been extending to inherit the methods from this object. In this case, and before I go any further, I know this is a little bit over you guys' head because we've been kind of like, here. Okay? We've been kind of like here. But just keep that in mind. For best practices, it's always best to kind of use the super keyword. How about that?
Well, I mean, I'll definitely Google it, but can we see what that function, what's inside that function, that super? Like, just to see what the code is that makes up that function, basically?
The code that makes up which
Yeah,
function?
so like, yeah,
The
so
super function?
super was created somewhere, and
Let's
it
see.
has code inside of its square brackets.
It's
So,
built into the language.
It's
Okay.
built into the JavaScript
You
language.
can look at the code if you go look at the code of JavaScript.
Yeah,
Just like if
Gotcha.
you wanted to look.
that's
at-
not React. That's actually JavaScript itself.
Yes.
Okay. So that's actually the JavaScript itself, which we wish we can look at it. But let's see what we got over here.
Using the super keyword calls the constructor of the parent. So here, if you scroll up, what's
The class name.
app extends component? Right, so when you call super, it's going to call the constructor of the component class.
And that
So this class will inherit all the methods of component by doing
and
that. So
that
Charles-
and that class that they're talking about, it's a class that's coming from the React class. This component right here. This component, it's a class themselves. The fact that the component extends the app, and that's what makes these functions available to us. This set state, it's a method from the component class that's being extended the app. And that's one of the reasons that we able to use this function inside of the app class, because the app class has been extended by the component class.
Do I need to do anything special in defining the class if I intend it to be extended by others? So when I'm writing
Not really. With the new version of JavaScript, the keyword extend should be everything you need to do to extend a class. All right, so I know this is a little bit, for some of you guys, this is like, okay, I got you, okay? Totally understand. But here's what the other guys are trying to say. Here's what they're trying to say, okay? Here's where they're coming in. They're saying that there is a class called component. And this class called component has a method inside of it called setState. And if you use React before, let's think about some other functions that React has, or some other methods, right? Well, React has something component did mount. Yeah, there's also something called render. It also has something called component did mount. All right. So all these methods are from the component class. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. Well, here's what they were talking about, okay? You see this keyword? Extend. What do they extend? They extend the other component that we just created that has component did mount, that have set state. Extend which component? The app component, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, here's what it means. That means every function or every method that was in the class component is now available into the app class. Does that make sense to everybody now? Any questions? Is that clear? Does everybody understand the extends keyword? All right. Okay, so let's kind of recap a little bit, okay? I know there's been some time where things was, phew, okay? There's been some times where things were, oh, jizz, okay? All right, here's the bottom line of this. Here's the bottom. The bottom line is there are two ways you can create a state in React, okay? The first way, it's by using this. The second way is by using this. Constructor, it's not part of React. It's built in JavaScript, okay? Now, what does that mean, the extend keyword? The extend keyword means that there is another class that would like to add more functionality to another class, which in our case, there is a component called class, which with the following methods. And they make all these methods available to our app class by using the extend keyword. Is that clear to everyone? Any questions? All right, so by now I'm hoping that everybody here can create a state. Can you? Okay. All right, so let's talk about component. What is a component? Like, how do we create a component, right? I think we answered to this question. Remember, I said we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this. Let's create a couple files over here. Oops. Ah, jeez. Hold on, let me set up one quick thing real quick, because this is bothering me. Okay, there you go. And in case you guys just noticed, if you have a Mac, you head over this icon, you head over preferences and settings, and then down here, you see where it said files excluded. Let's actually expand this. Oh, I don't think I can. Files excluded, and there's different files that you can exclude. I set the node module equal to true, which means that VS Code will hide them for me. If you set them to false, it will bring them back. You see that? So it was kind of bothering me a little bit, and I said, thank you, VS Code. See you later.
So before you go to the components, I guess it seems like, so once you create your state and then you add whatever you want it to be, you place it inside of whatever element that you're wanting to like have the state. Is there, and then that at the bottom where you had like my app, can you explain that part? Because I'm trying to think of it in steps in my head so that I can go back and duplicate this basically.
How about we comment them out? This was just an example whenever using the ES6 class with not React. The ES6 class, when you create a class, in order to use it, you make what they call an instance of this class. I think I might be missing something. I might be missing the new keyword.
Okay.
I think so. Yep. So down here, just to kind of give an example, I make an instance of this class, but whenever you're using React, you won't need this. This was for JavaScript related example.
Yeah, like that looks familiar to me. I just didn't know if,
We should use it? No.
okay.
Does that make sense?
So once, like after you created the state in that particular component and you want to carry it over to the next one, how are you placing it into that component?
So when you create two components, right?
Yes.
You want to bring one to the other one?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to do that in a second.
Okay.
All right. Now, any questions regarding the state? Everybody by now should be able to define and change the data within the state and clearly have an understanding of a state. Is that good for everyone? Okay. So, for some of you, might be a little bit okay, Sterling. I think I have some understanding of this already. Let me check the time because I want to take you guys' challenge for your project. And I'm hoping for everybody to see how I'm going to be debugging them. What time is it? Is the times good? Do everybody know what time is it?
7:43.
Oh, we got plenty of time. Okay, so let's talk about component in React. What a component? Like, what is a component? Why should we use them? How do we define a component in React, right? Well, my question to you is, does everybody here can tell me what a component is?
It's a shell,
Mhm.
where you place that current view you want to see at that current state.
That's good. Some other people want to say something else?
It's a bunch of code that represents a chunk of the web page.
That's good.
It can be independently rendered.
Okay, that's good. All right. Okay, let's talk about component. What is a component? All these answers you guys just said. All right. And here's the whole purpose behind a component. Okay? And if you go to a job interview, you should go with that job interview and be expecting to say, if you don't say it, there's more likely they won't gonna call you back, okay? Whenever you go to any job interview, there are two things you should always say, even though you get the job or not. The whole purpose of a component is for reusability and maintainability. The purpose, you guys just gave the definition. Okay, so what is reusability? Well, reusable means that you can use it over and over. And in case you guys might be wondering, okay, Sterling, why did I have all these nested little components inside like that that doesn't make sense? Well, here's the reason. For reusability. That means you can use them over and over, and that's the whole reason you guys had them in there. For maintainability, I can't pronounce that word. For maintainability, sorry guys. What does that mean? Well, that means if you want to change, let's say, just like you had it, you had a nested little button all the way inside, and then you're using that little button 5 different places. Well, that means in case you want to change that little button later on, you don't need to change it in 5 different places. You're only gonna change it wherever you are creating that button, and all 5 different places going to be changed. And your code is maintainable. Well, why did I say you need to say this at your interview? And here's why. Because the employer that's looking for a candidate, they're not just looking for a candidate because you don't know what happened inside there. Somebody didn't just stay and quit the job. Somebody came to a point that something's not working, they just don't know what's going on. Like yesterday at work, we had an issue. Nobody can know what's going on. Why? Because the code, it's not maintainable. When you say that to your employer, hey, I can code, when I'm coding an application, I always make sure that I use reusable component, and I always make sure that I can maintain my application. Well, guess what? The employer will say, oh, we had an issue yesterday. Oh, see you tomorrow. Because you can maintain your code. Now, any questions about these 2 words?
Alright. So back to component. In React, there are three different type of component. In React, to your entire React cycle, to your entire React journey, to your entire React life, you're only gonna be dealing with three different React components. The first one, it's called functional component. The first type of component in React, it's called functional component. The second type of component in React, as you guys can see already, I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. It's called class component. Just you guys can see right. Well, what about the third one? Well, the third one, it's called higher order component, which means that if you want to work with React, it doesn't matter what you're going to be building, you're going to be dealing with three types of components, which AKA means if you understand them today, you will be comfortable with every single one of them. Clear, right? Well, how do we define it? Well, here's how we define the first one. It's just a function. And always make sure you import React. The first type of component, which is called functional component, is just a function. Can everybody here create a function? Well, guess what? It's a functional component. How about that? How easy is that, right? Well, the second type of component, as you guys can see already, it's just a class component. You guys seen this before, right? And you guys can do this, right? Well, what about the third one? God bless you. Oops. Well, the third one, it's a little bit advanced. It's a little bit interesting. It's a little bit complicated. It's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit fascinating. But it's the most useful component in React. Higher order component. Once again, we might not have the chance to cover this today, but it's out there. It's worth checking it out. I'm going to tell you why you should consider using it. In React, with your entire React journey, doesn't matter what you're going to be doing, you're going to be facing three type of components. And that's it. Any questions?
Are you familiar with any of the C++ design patterns?
No, I don't, unfortunately. I
That
don't
reeks of being a factory pattern.
Okay. There you go. I don't do Java and any C languages. These are the only things that I'm a little bit, out. But yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about component, right? Let's go back to the functional component. Okay, so I understand there's three types of component, but which one should I consider using? If I'm building an application, all right, which one should I use? I mean, you just throw out three of them. I mean, should I just pick any one of them? Or how does this thing work? Now,
They work all together, like we would use all of them.
exactly, right? That's what you think. But in reality, no. I thought the same way. I was, oh man, React is awesome. I don't like it this way, and especially the other way. I don't even want to look at it. Just weird, man. I'm just gonna keep with the two. But in reality, there's when to use one, and there's when you should not use the other one. And they're critical to the two words I just described earlier, which is maintainability and usability. One of my main jobs at Cox right now, what I'm working on right now, is looking at the entire component and compile it, turning them into higher order component, because they got so many components that are doing the same thing that can just be built into one component and just make it more reusable and more maintainable. And that's why I go home at 5. Like, until there's a guy at work, he always leave work at 7. It's always frustrating, it's always, and guess what? I go to work at 10, and I leave at 3. And sometimes I even leave at 2. Sometimes I even leave at 2. And my boss can't say anything, because if he says something, I won't be creating for them higher order component. They're going to say something. They can't, because I can create higher order component, and they can't. Anyhow, long story short, let's talk about, I'm hoping you guys understand JSX, which is just return. Okay. All right. So here's when you should not, I'm going to tell you when you should not use one component, and you will understand when you should use the other one, okay? In a functional component, here's the whole idea behind it. I'm gonna write them down over here, and that's gonna answer to, I think, you question. A functional component should be stateless, which means no state. Or they also call them stateless component. It should be dumb component. Something's dumb, cannot do logic, which means no function inside of it. Representational component, which means his only mission is to render or represent the dump, which aka means you're just gonna take some data and just represent it to the dump. If you want to look at another way, it's just going to be a lot of HTML. And the last one, of course, we already know the name, it's functional. They call it functional component. I want to make this clear. In a functional component, you should not have any state. In a functional component, it should be dumb, which means that you should not have any function inside. That's the whole idea. That's how they call it. A functional component should represent the dump, which means only dump HTML into it as much as possible. Here's the other interesting part. It's gonna be interesting. Bear with me, hold on tight.
Dylan, did you just screw this up? Did you just mention no API? Yes. Then what do you mean by side effects? I don't know. All right, so let's gonna take it a little bit step by step, okay? This is getting a little bit interesting, and just to kind of review what we talk about redox, we talk about components, we talk about state, and we talk about state, and we're still talking about component, okay? What do I mean by side effects? Everybody know what this is? Want to guess?
Can't it change anything, like, in that it affects every other component?
You're getting really close. All right, here's what they meant. Anybody know what a Q function is? Okay, that's fine. Now,
No side effects.
there you go. There you go. You get all right. Trust me, guys. JavaScript is evolving. Okay, we need to keep up to date with it. Okay. Now there is a new terms in the market, and I'm gonna throw this out there for you, and this is gonna come very handy when I'm gonna look at her code, and I'm gonna use one of these things right there. I'm gonna look at her code, which gonna help me to understand what's going on. Say that one more time. I'm gonna use one of these to look at her code and clearly understand what's going on. What do I mean by this? Q function. Before we talk about side effects, let's talk about Q function. Okay. In JavaScript, there are two type of like bunch of functions, of course, but there are two names. There's pure, there's impure functions. There's pure functions, and there's pure functions. We're not going to talk about impure functions. We're going to focus about pure functions. This is really interesting, okay? Now, in JavaScript in general, you guys code JavaScript, right? All right. There are two paradigms that is popular right now. It's either functional or OOP. Write this down. When you write in JavaScript, you need to choose one of them. Because if you don't, here's what's going to happen. Your code won't be maintainable. And when you come back later, your future self won't even know what you're doing. And somebody's going to be in trouble, and it's not me. All right. You're writing JavaScript from today's class. If you want to remember one thing, it doesn't matter what you're writing. It doesn't matter what it is. When you're writing JavaScript, you either write it functional programming way. If you don't know what this is, YouTube, there's a guy on YouTube, he built, listen to this, he built an entire YouTube channel talking just about functional programming. You know what he calls his channel? Fun function.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually pulling up real quick. That's it. Oh, you see that? The first thing that happened in Google. Fun function.
Let's go there.
And let's see how many people. You see? Guess what? You see that? He has. You see that? He has 150,000 subscribers, which means the two ways I just talked about is 100,000 people write JavaScript this way. Interesting, right? Fascinating. All right?
let's close this YouTube in a sec, but you definitely can feel free to check it out. Back to the code. All right. Why did I bring these two ways? Because you should, this is serious, okay? You should think about writing your code. It's either one of this way or not, okay? All right, let's talk about the functional way. Well, when you're writing code about functional way, there are few terms you need to understand, such as pure function, that's one of them, such as map, that's one of them, such as filter, that's one of them, such as reduce, that's one of them. So all these ways, when you write in code, if you see yourself using a lot of these things, you write in your code in a functional way, okay? Which we're not going to focus about that, which is this is a whole different topic. But let's go back where we're coming from. What is a pure function? A pure function, it's a function that depends on itself, which means nothing outside of the scope matters to it. The only thing that it cares about, what's inside the function, okay? Okay, does that make sense for everybody? All right, let's build a pure function real quick. Well, what happened? This function just depends on itself. Like it's using x and y and just return, the result 10, right? Well, I'm going to show you when it's not pure. Is x inside this function? No. Then it is impure. And this is called a side effect.
Can pure functions take arguments?
Yep, you can take arguments. Yep. Definitely look this up. Now back to business. A functional component, back to component way. We're focusing on the component. A functional component should not have any side effects. Which means, if you have a functional component and you have a global variable, which can be result, do you think you should use this inside your functional component? No, because it's outside of the scope of this function. And what is considered a side effect as well? There's also one thing that's also considered a side effect. AJAX request, or API, is considered a side effect, which means that you are relying on other third services which might fail on that just to get stuff inside your function. Now, this is a way open, deeper topic, okay? Which you guys, if you're interested, not today, you can Google functional programming and OOP, object-oriented programming, whichever one you like. I can do both ways, which is gonna help me read your code. Yep.
What, yes. At least what is your feeling about mixing the industry? Is it 50-50? Is it 10% functional, 90%?
Now, every single framework out there writes their code, in either one of those. Angular, it's heavily OOP, which means if you understand, like strictly
OOP. They are so strict about it that they build an entire framework. You see what I said? Frameworks, which means they build the entire stuff about OOP. Some of the frameworks out there, like, for example, like Express, I believe is also OOP. So the mix out there, it's either one way. You won't see a professional developer write code either kind of like versa. No, it's gonna be one way, and they check this out. This is interesting, okay? Check this out. Some professional developers are so picky, and they also hate some other people that write the other way, that they sometimes enforce their coding style with some ESLint, for example. Exactly. Some people are so picky, even about double quotes. In the functional programming, the recommending way, it's a single quote. If you come to like at Cox, I knew about some of those, but I didn't know it was that intense. I was building something, and I just put double quotes, like just a string. Let me show you what I put. That's it. And guess what? They decline my request until I make it like this. And guess what? They also decline my request because one of my objects was like this. There needs to be a space. Now, the reason I'm showing you this, from now on, when you leave this room, if all of this doesn't make sense to you, the two things should make sense. You should consider going functional programming and OOP programming. Otherwise, you can't rate somebody up. You know, sometimes, have you guys ever seen this? Like your classmate and you working on a project together, and they write JavaScript, but you just don't understand what they're doing. Have you guys seen this? Like both of them work on the same project. They write JavaScript, but you just don't understand what they're doing. All right? Well, this will help you with this issue. All right. Forget about this now. Any question? Let's forget. Let's erase all of it. Okay, let's.
And I'm sorry, but did I get an answer? Is it 50-50?
No. It's 100% one of them. It's either functional.
I understand that. I'm saying within a company, it's one or the other.
Oh, within
But within the industry, do most companies do one way or the other?
no, most company have different teams within the company, right?
Okay.
One team will go one way 100%. For example, my team right now, in my company, we got two different teams on one software. One team use functional way, and the other team also use functional, which is 100%, but we use JavaScript and they use TypeScript. So it's based on your team to either decide what coding style you're going to use. And if you decide, it has to be 100%.
But in terms of the industry,
In terms of the industry, I'll say it's kind of 50-50 to where you go. Depends. Okay? To where you go.
So Charles, my view is that for 20 years, object-oriented has dominated, and functional programming is trending upwards and becoming much more important.
Yeah.
the reason I'm smiling when you say that, in my 16 years in embedded systems, functional is the only thing that's done. And if you try to do object-oriented programming, you get slapped on the wrist.
You see that?
At Motorola.
You see that?
And at EchoStar.
So what we're telling you today, trust me, if you think you know JavaScript, you need to figure out which way you code it, okay? And you need to check this out. All right. Oh God, that was a lot. That was a lot, okay? But remember, I put this did 5 times. That's good I put this. All right, guys, that was a lot. Anyway, forget about all of this. And I hope this makes sense for all of you. Well, let's get back to side effects. Side effects.
We're gonna take a break anytime?
Oh, you guys want a break?
Yes.
All right, let's do a 5 minutes break.
Okay.
Enjoy your 5 minutes. You guys enjoy, take some rest, and let's get back to business.
Functional versus LOD.
Oh, that.
I understand it's 100%, that's where it's at.
Well, I mean, as we always say, we just above what everyone else does, and then tolerate one.
And then check.
Yeah. So, it's instead of being like, oh, it's gonna come in there, listen, like, whatever.
Who done it and why?
Yeah. Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
So, hold on.
no, I still.
That's, well, I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, what the position is. Okay, cool.
I've been making sure I do a lot of woosah.
Yeah. Exactly. I gotta come in there like, same line, and receive whatever.
Yeah, just come on in. Got a lot of stuff. Dan, can I just go back to bringing out some coffee?
No. That's it. And I mean, that's the biggest thing, really, are you getting, if you get something that all for it, but it's not, you know, the little bit, 'cause I make mistakes somewhere where I wasn't really getting the edit. Already?
You know, so funny. I saw the video.
Oh, you know. See you later. Yeah, we hired someone.
He, oh yeah, they were tiny full stack.
Yeah.
You see that? So, what you
I mean, he's in there now, our new person's here.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
You
they
did
did it
really-
really quickly. I mean, they. First round. I was just like, no, live my time, or do my time, and keep it moving. So I really. But the thing about it is like, our stuff is unfortunately not manual or reusable. That would need someone to come in, make that, you know, a priority, and so that, like, when I, hopefully, I mean, I'm still there. I can come in and not have to like fix broken things, you know, and we need things so quickly, that's kind of difficult. Yeah. I don't know everything, but I know some. And then the stuff that we're using, like we use C#.
Sure.
C++, .NET, and I'm pretty sure we didn't really, you know.
Just glance over that.
There's something little sprinkling in there, right?
Exactly.
As you like to say.
Yeah. So, it's like, I can't really be that helpful right now, I could be helpful for our
Yeah, we
next
definitely
phase
want
in
to-
our agreement, like moving us into a more updated platform and stuff like that. But as of right now, it's a lot.
Kind of softens a little bit.
But I mean, I'm just using the program, like, you know, something that is program, something I know, like, sugar or stuff, and it's like, start looking at it and trying to, you know, start keeping it, yeah. So,
You're trying to do that where you're at now?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I can't leave.
I
I do
don't know.
have to, yeah.
Not really.
Do you have like a contract or something?
Yeah.
But part of me is like,
Like way
yeah. Part of
Have
me-
you been there yet?
They,
I don't know.
Oh, you have to stay 5?
No, I have to stay here one, but I've been there for.
Oh, wow. That's like. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, you're so used to going that way.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to.
Not just switch. Right. And then we'd be like, oh.
So you're able to do some of the back end stuff now?
I find it, but I'm like,
Just for the other one.
I mean, I'm hoping that I've talked to my.
Because he said, my mail, he said,
Is that the guy we met?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
so we start doing, whatever, for actually having this shit, and I was like, so I'm trying to incorporate that into
But he said, oh, they're using gonna use React?
so he said.
they use whatever I want to use, basically, for the use, so, if I'm comfortable with that, then.
Yeah, we, that's it.
But I know I don't like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually, because the way it goes is like, so the next year's the guy talking
So
about.
you use Angular?
And then there's.
Yeah, we should do it on a live project, and.
everybody,
Me and the class?
Oh, yeah.
So,
And it's
that's
just,
like I talked to the guy.
I don't like, I think maybe the way we did it, maybe wasn't fair. It was like, yeah, I for both of us.
The worst one.
Learning, yeah, why we decided to do that, I don't know.
Not
So it's like,
But,
I'm still nervous.
I was
Yeah,
capitalizing the key and the key was
that's
was
what I think.
not correct. It should be little key.
Other than that, he said just.
We got that.
It's everything.
All right, guys, 5 minutes over. Let's get back to business, okay? 5 minutes over. All right. For those of you that might be curious about functional programming, I just slack out a link into your Slack channel. It's talking about functional programming, and it has over 10,000 people that liked it, which means a lot of people. And also, some of the places you might work for might be some of the people over there liked it, which means if they liked it, they're gonna force you to do it. So anyhow, it's out there. Yep.
What Slack channel is that?
The general inside you guys Slack. Okay. Yeah, definitely bookmark it. Definitely consider using it. Okay. All right. So back to business. What we talking about? Yep.
Just real quick, which do you favor, functional or?
My favorite?
Yeah.
That's actually a really cool question. I need to laugh a little bit before I say it. My favorite actually is functional programming.
Okay.
Yeah. I love functional programming. I'm a big fan of it. And here's the funny thing. I haven't fully dived into it. I just learned the concept. I just love the concept. And it's kind of easy to work with, but I'm also familiar with the OOP way as well. Okay? You as a developer should not be limited because you never know where you're gonna be working at. All right? Okay, so back to business. Here's what we're talking about, because I don't want you guys to kind of like, this is I thought was useful, I just kind of threw it out there. But here's what we're talking about. We're talking about 3 type of component. We show you functional component, which is what we're talking about now. There's higher order component, there's class component.
the functional component should have no side effects, which means it should not inherit any global things. Everything should be calculated within it. Okay? It should not have no API. API request is technically considered as side effects as well. So the bottom line is, whenever you want to use state into your application, you should be considered to use a class component. Every single time that you need to have a state, you need to hold some data, you need to share some data, you need to consider using a class component. And remember, a functional component, which is a functional component, where is it? A functional component, it's dumb component, which means no functions. Well, every single time that you need to use a function, just like we did over here, we need to use a class component. Every single time you need to do some functions, functions are smart. Functional component is dumb. So every single time you need to use a function, it needs to be in a class component. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. What else?
So if you use a class component, do you use it as an extend, like class?
Exactly. Yep. Class. Yep. As an extend. Correct.
Oh, what happened? Oh, yeah. I think I was like, what happened? Okay. Hold on. All right. So no API, right? That means every single time that you want to use to get some data to make some API request, you need to use a class component. From today's start, or from the last 20 minutes start, because that makes the difference of knowing when to use a functional component and when to not use a functional component. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. There's one last one. How about the higher order component? Like, how does this work? Isn't it interesting? You guys want to know about it, or you guys feel me doing this? All right. Well, welcome to React. Okay. So, what about higher order component, right? Well, think about. Here's the interesting thing. Okay. Forget functional component for now. What I really want you to focus on is two things: higher order component and class component. Okay. So, whenever you're building an application, I have a perfect example to show you. And I'm hoping I can, new window. Okay, I'm hoping I can find a perfect example to show you. This is an application that I worked on a long time ago, and I really wish I hadn't worked on it.
Okay.
And you guys gonna see why. Everything was good except one thing I don't like, and I hate it, okay? As you guys can see, I'm gonna go to the sign up, okay? Sign in, I'm gonna open the sign in. And I'm gonna also open the sign up. Okay, and you guys should see when to use a higher order component. Well, oops, where's the, okay, sign in. Just drag this guy over here. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay. Okay. All right, when we look at the sign-in component, this is a class component, right? Because we can instantly tell, hey, we have a function. That means it should be a class component. And I thought this is actually a really cool extension from VS Code. As you could see, the last person that works on it, in case you guys are interested, the extension is called Git Lens. You just install it, and whenever your classmate messed up something that doesn't work, they cannot hide anything. It's called Git Lens. All right, but here's here's handle change, right? It's in the signing. This whole purpose behind this function, it's getting some value from certain inputs. And the inputs are, down, see how many. You see, it's getting some value from some input over here. And I can go to the next one. It's also getting input. But the bottom line is, within this class component, I have this function. But guess what? Inside the sign up component, I also have the same function. Also have the same function, right? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's just two of them. But let's keep looking down. Oops. Let's see. Give me one quick second. Save info, and let's try that. Oops. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, let's just focus on the 2-1. All right. So if you think about, let me just return to, where is it? Okay. So if you think about this way, if I'm having to get some input from the input form again, I'm gonna have to build an entire function over and over, right? Well, higher order functions, let me say it one more time. Higher order functions can help you write every same functions that multiple components are likely to use and wrap them as a component. Let me say that one more time. A higher order component takes all the similar functions that other components might use and wrap them into one component. It just doesn't make sense, but let me show you an example. All right, so let's go back into here. So in my handle change, in this higher order function, I want to build this function for every single time that I want to get or thinking about building this handle change. Now, I'm not expecting you guys to fully clearly understand this, because trust me, some professional developer still having issue grasping this, okay? I had a guy recently that's been doing React for 2.5 years. Last week, he finally started using higher order components after spending 3.5 weeks diving into it. I'm not expecting you to fully grasp this within minutes. All right, here's an example. Example is, I just do my function here, handle change. And then, okay. And then what else? I just use the render function. Oops, let's make this into a component. Just return. So now, here's how we use it. Okay, before we talk about this, let's keep it. All right, so this function now, any component that I have that is using the higher order component, they will instantly have this function available to them. Does that make sense? For example, if I have another function, which is in this case, I'm gonna bring the app. I'm gonna bring the app. Actually, I'm gonna go inside the app I'm gonna bring this higher order component. Where is it? HOC from, oops, from HOC. I think so. Okay, so I bring this component. Remember, this is my component, right? Well, down here, I'm gonna say main app, and I call my higher order component, and I pass it my app component right here. So the bottom line is a higher order component. It's a component that takes another component and returns a component. You say that one more time. A higher order component, it's a component that takes a component and returns another component. And here's what's gonna happen. Now, instantly, the app have access or have a function called handle change. It instantly have this function built into it. Any questions?
Is it only methods or is it also data?
Oh, you can pass extra data as a parameters as well.
No, I'm saying, can, like the last line, export,
Okay.
default main component?
Mhm.
Could I define, well, in your definition of main component, you added a method. Can I add a data attribute that will become a part of main component?
Exactly. You can also add some data as well. Data attribute, like some sort of.
So this is effectively allowing me to define what conceptually is a parent class on the fly?
Correctly.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about? Adding this one, like some sort of data over here. Okay, yeah. So yep.
And so did you hear what I said about a parent class?
Yep.
It conceptually at least, it just lets me add a parent class.
That's exactly right. If you want to put it this way. So, higher order component, it's complicated. It's fascinating. It's interesting. It's even quite terrifying. but it's worth listening. Okay? I've been building applications with just two of them, like functional and class. Like I've been building application with two of them. And guess what? At Works, they've been building application with just two of them. So if you don't feel comfortable yet, try to be comfortable with the 2-1. But think about migrating or exploring higher order component.
How does it see the code after the return?
That's a good question. And I'm assuming the only person that can more likely to answer this question for it is a guy called Dorian, and he is actually the maintainer of React repo. That means I don't know the answer to.
Can you go back to app.js and can I see that? So I guess, so I understand, app.js is not actually using anything that's in this new instance. They're, whatever, I guess, is gonna reference it next is what's gonna use it. That make, help me, Chief.
Actually, I didn't quite follow that, yeah.
So basically, like, you created this component, you have everything that you want in there, but it's not pulling from HOC right now.
Oh, by the time you pass the app into OOC,
Yeah.
it instantly get whatever is inside OOC.
But did you put it like,
Inside the app, we're not using it now.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
inside the app, we're not using it.
okay.
Just a quick sanity question. In some other piece of code, because I will import main app,
Mhm.
I'll have some app equals new main app.
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly. But yeah, this is, guys, this is called higher order component. If you guys still interested, we can still dive deeper. But if you guys are not interested, which I know you are not quite fully interested, we can move on. Any questions?
So why would we use this?
So the reason we would use this is, think about if you have two components with 5 same functions or 3 same functions. That should not be the case. You should use a higher order component, put all the same component in the higher order component, and then pass every function you want to inherit from it into the higher order component.
Because of what I was just saying about conceptually, it's like creating a parent class. Why do this and not just create a parent class?
You're talking about just class and then why do the higher order component?
Why do I need this?
Why do you need the higher order component?
I can do a parent class.
Well, here's the interesting thing. When you do the parent class, you're gonna have to do something else, which is you're gonna have to pass the data over something called props, right? Which is fine, but this one, when you have a higher order component, when you're building a massive application, you can have some sort of long logic, okay? You can have some sort of long logic, and when you have those long logic, it's easier to just dump another component in to inherit from those logic instead of having the class component, and then you're gonna have to create this function in another class component again. You're gonna have to create the same function in another class component. Does that make sense? No. I know. It's okay.
If my parent class has no app,
Which you're talking about the app component in this case, right?
no, the one above app component.
Hold on, let's pull this one.
Parent of app component.
You're talking about this one.
No,
Which one?
component,
Oh, this one?
yes.
Okay.
So I can put my additional methods into the component class. I hate that there's a component, but I can put the methods there, and then I don't need this higher order component.
Now, this component,
I understand that it's part of React,
yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
but I can create my own.
Function here,
In the middle, between component and app.
right here, right? You're talking about
You'd
you.
be saying, class middle app
Right.
extends component,
Uh-huh.
and then app would extend middle app. And all the other
Oh,
things
you
that
were talking about extending a component and then extending another one?
Well, exactly what Gene was saying. Put another class between app and component.
Got it. And
So-
then extend,
Oh, that would replace your higher order components.
got it.
Everything else could be children of that. or
Got
sub-
it. So-
subclasses.
Let me do an example. We're talking more about, sorry man, the understanding is not quite good. Subchild. So you were talking about creating something here and then put all your function here and then extend the app with it, right?
So the next line would be class app extends subchild.
Exactly. Okay.
In fact, class subchild extends component. And class app extends subchild.
The one thing that I know for sure is when you extend the component, which is this component from React, right?
Right.
So there are a couple functions that React itself is in charge of. Like it does some logic and making sure that they have the great control over them, such as render, right? Such as render, such as component did mount, and so on, right? When you extend the subchild, that's also a possible way to do that. But the only problem with this actually, let's see, let me think about some scenario, because it makes sense to use it. Let me think
there's, oh, sorry guys. It's actually a really good question because I haven't seen it in the industry actually. I believe it's possible because once you extend it, you will technically get the function within the sub-child to the app. The only thing is you're just gonna end up with a lot of extend,
Yeah, I mean,
which is fine.
this is textbook, either C++ or Java, class inheritance.
Which is also fine. But in case you guys don't want to do a lot of extends, just know there's something out there for higher order component. Does that make sense about what he was saying, guys? About the extend keyword? Oh, it doesn't?
It does, I mean, both of them make me nervous because you're going into it, and I don't like that.
Well, let me tell you this. The extends keyword, it's part of OOP. So if you don't want to be too scared, you need to choose a way to go. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yes.
Any questions? Is that clear?
Is there a frowned upon amount of
Extends you can do? I'm a functional programmer. Now, one thing I can tell you is you can extend and extend and extend, but you need to think about your application state because you don't want to end up with a lot of extends. And that's the whole reason before coding an application, you need to strictly lay out your application state. Is that clear for everyone? That's possible because the only reason it's possible is because it's OOP.
And I just did a little Google reading, and that's the answer to Charles's question, is if you wanted to do your programming OOP, you do it his way.
Yeah.
And the HOC was invented to accomplish that in a functional programming paradigm.
That's exactly right. Oh, that's good.
Not a question, but just a statement for some of the people that I was talking to at break. There is something called procedural programming that is done in the C language. Procedural means like you have a recipe, you do these, do this, do this, do this, follow a procedure. Okay, and it's another programming paradigm that I guess sits alongside object-oriented programming. From the Googling that I did, now I don't think that functional equates to procedural.
No, absolutely correct.
Right.
And actually, when you said that about the stuff earlier, that your embedded stuff, I expected that to be procedural.
Exactly.
I had a lot of procedural experience before coming here and not that much OOP.
Right.
And yeah, that's all procedural. And functional is very different.
Is it like Lisp?
You're talking about the functional, is it like this?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like the similar concept with, because it will execute it just the same way as the one you just described. And in case you guys might be confusing, you know what you're missing. You know what you're missing, okay? All right? All right, guys, so this is also possible, which is, OOP way. But keep that in mind. And as you guys can see, to your answer, which is Google pretty helpful, when we look at the OOP, when we look at the HOC, it's just a function. You see? It's just a function over there. That's functional paradigms. You guys got a lot to do, and unfortunately, I won't be able to teach everything today. Anyway, any questions about different type of components? Is that clear for everyone? Everybody feeling good with React so far?
Can you just say like an
Each of the one I talk about? Yeah, okay. All right, let's wake up. All right, everybody, let's wake up.
afraid we won't be able to cover this, but definitely gonna debug your project. That's a plus. All right, so we talk about Redux. We said Redux, it's a state management, okay, which is that manage your entire application. We also talk about two big features about Redux. One of them is you can choose, instead of returning the whole object, you can choose to only return the piece of data that you need, okay? We also talk about this big object that Redux has. This object is available through your entire application, which means for your entire application, it doesn't matter how many pages you have, it's available for you. This is Redux, okay? Now, we also talk about immutable. Immutable means that something that cannot change. The data inside Redux cannot change, which is one of the reasons they have something called reducer. Forget it, we're not going to talk about it. All right? They have something called action. Forget it again. But React state cannot change. The only way to change it, if somebody remember, is what? Set state. All right. This is a review. We recap it. We also talk about components. We said how many type of component there are in React? 3 type of component. Functional component, class, higher order component. And when we should not use a functional component? No state, no API, no logic. Good, awesome. All right, we also talk about a higher order component, which is a component that takes another component and returns another component. All right, we talk about when to use a class component. Whenever you have your state, you use it. Whenever you have API calls, you use it. And all these jazz. We talk about, what else? I guess, yeah, we talk about Q function. Q function is something that just should be doing the logic within it. It should not have any side effects, which means no global variable. And these are everything we talk in general. Any questions regarding these? No, it's okay.
No.
It's okay.
Is it most often true that higher order components are built as part of a refactoring rather than the original design? You notice that you've got these 7 other components that all are sharing, that all have their version of the function, and you pull it out and put it into a...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Because that's what React itself is built into. It's more about reusability. When you think about having all this component, that's one of the reasons they come up with building a higher order component as well. There is higher order functions, but it's functional programming. You guys know what to do. Anyhow, there's one thing that I haven't had time to talk about, which somebody asked me a question. I'm going to leave the 30 minutes just for your project, which is Thunk. I didn't forget. Thunk. What is Thunk? Anybody want to guess?
Has been the thing.
Right?
I think I thought.
Okay. What is Thunk? Any question? You want to guess? No? Everybody's scared? All right. Here's what Thunk is all about, okay? Check this out. Redux is a state management, right? Everybody from today's class clearly know what Redux is. Well, Redux, the data in Redux, it's not changeable. Like you cannot change it. Well, just like React, the data cannot change. But it's not impossible. Well, React makes it, in order for you to change the data, with set state, okay? How does Redux makes it for you to change the data? Well, they make it to change the data with what they call actions. If you want to write something down, this is the perfect words to write down in case you're interested in learning Redux. It's called, if you want to change the data inside Redux, you need to fire an action. You need to fire an action. Okay? Well, action
It's supposed to be pure function. See that one more time? Actions are supposed to be pure functions, which means no API calls. But if you're using Redux, of course there gotta be ways to do API call, right? If actions are technically pure functions, which means that's the only way to, in order for you to change the data, you need to fire in actions, pure functions, to change the data. Well, if you need some APIs data, like how this seems to work. Well, func is the process that allows you to change the data inside Redux with combination with an action without messing the pure function, if you want to put it this way. Does that make sense with func? Does that? All right, let me say that one more time. So, actions should be pure functions. And the only way to change the data inside Redux, you need to fire an action. All right? Well, if you need to fire an action, which they are pure functions, what about if you need some data? And we know pure functions should not be dealing with API requests, right? Well, func, it's a way that helps you deal with API requests inside your actions or in combination with actions to change the data inside the Redux store. So if you want to get some, let me put it this way, that might make it more clear. If you want to get some data from an API inside Redux, you need to use func. Does that sound more clear? Right. There's another one that is more easy to use. Actually, there are two other ones. There's one that's easy to use, which is my favorite. My favorite. It's called Redux Promise Middleware. Redux Promise Middleware. There's another one that is popular, but not my favorite. And a lot of companies use it. It's called, I believe it's called Redux Sago. Saga or Sago. Let me Google this one. There you go. Redux Saga. NPM. There you go. And then we got Redux Promise Middleware. So if you're making an API request, you get some data, and you want to modify the data within Redux, you need either func, or you need Redux Saga, or whatever they pronounce it, or you use Redux Promise Middleware. Does that answer to the question of what func is? Good? All right.
I'm not good.
Func? Oh, func, right? Okay. So func, let me put this one more time. Redux, you cannot change the data inside Redux. The only way to change the data, you need to fire an action. Is that clear to anyone? Actions are pure function. Means no side effects, no API request. Well, if there's no API request you can do inside a pure function, how are you going to change the data that's coming from the API request? If it doesn't work with API, how are you going to change the data? Well, func, it's a package or whatever it is that allows you to, the data you're going to get from the API, to modify the data inside your Redux object.
Would you say it's like sensitive?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
what
that's
we're
exactly
doing.
right. That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Let's say it's kind of similar with set state, but for API.
Okay.
Good?
That answers your question? You good? You sure? You good? Okay. Any questions? All right, so, well, let's share this one out. Hold on real quick. Okay. I think that's technically cover, I guess, everything that I needed to talk about. Everything is clear, but we won't be able to cover to talk about ExpressVPN post. And I guess it's time for this. Any other question before we start into the projects?
Is that gonna carry over to the next class?
Yep. Everything remaining gonna be carried to the next class. Any other questions? All right, let me ask you Q&A. Everybody's feeling good about state? Redux. Components. Okay. All right. Okay, let's dive the project. I think, what was the issue for your project again?
We weren't able to receive the data
Mm-hmm.
of the database.
And then you weren't able to display it inside the DOM, right? Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and clone her project. You guys can follow along. And if you don't understand something that I'm gonna be doing, please stop me in the way. And let's see where this is at. Hold on, I thought I had it. Give me 1 second. Somewhere. I guess no. Let's go back. Oops. What was it? I'm sure I had it somewhere. Okay, I'm gonna go here. And
The time that you pulled it was like for Saturday.
okay, let me pull this one real quick. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna disconnect this real quick and then pull it down here. There you go. And I think it's actually there you go. Okay. Okay. All right, and all right, I think this is the project. And hold on, let's check this one out real quick. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead here and delete this. All right, so that's the project. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and hit this clone button. Hit the clone and copy the link. I'm gonna go here somewhere on my computer. Gonna go inside desktop and clone this project. There you go. Oops, git clone. All right, and I cloned the project. I'm gonna go inside the project and now open this one inside my VS Code. Any questions? Everybody's good? Okay. All right, so here I'm gonna head over this project, look at the package.json because this is where all the packages are. There are 4 of them. And I can just do npm install and that will install every single one of them. The second thing I do when I'm looking at a project, it's how many npm package they have. More likely it's there are some in the client. You see that?
Yeah.
So after this is finished, which is finished, now go inside the client and do npm install as well. All right, and I think that's it. I don't think there's any other one. And now the other thing that I do, I look at the structure of the folder. When I looked at this, I'm more likely to see MVC. Model, that's considered as the view, the client, and that's considered as the C. So this is a perfect example of project for me to work with. You see what I looked at? All right, so this is considered as the view. They either call it app, views, client, whatever it is, but as long as it's related to the front end, okay? And now everything's done. And the other thing that I do, once you finish doing your npm install, it's how to start the app. Technically, it's npm start, but it doesn't always work. here's where we need to look for any application or any node application to start the app. We need to look at the packet.json, and inside the scripts, you see that? This is where we're going to be looking at the command to run the app. When we looked at this, there's the start. Here's what it does. It's using a package called concurrently. It runs the server, and also it runs npm client. And after that, it runs yod seed something, which I'm assuming it's gonna fill in some data, right? And when I go back to npm run client, which is over here, and this one is running the front end. That means if I just do npm start, it should be able to start the app. But if I do npm seed, it should be able to fill in my app with the data I need. So the bottom line is, when you're looking at an application, you want to start it, this is the first place you need to look at to know how to start your application. Clear for everyone? Okay. All right, so npm start. I need to have my Mongo server running. And now I can just...
Script that starts it up.
Oh, that started up as well? Okay. Let's try that. Where am I? Yep. Which script is this? Hold on, let's make sure. Okay, client.
There's a pre-start script for starting the data.
Okay. Awesome. So, oh, command not found.
I think you were saying you have to do npm pre-start, right?
I know, because if you do npm start, it will start the pre-start command.
Okay.
I guess this is not running because of this issue. I think it's something to happen with my Mongo command. So when I do start Mongo, you see command not found because I didn't configure Mongo to run some command on my computer. So the bottom line is I'm going to go ahead and remove that script because I don't have that command. And now I can manually start my Mongo command here. Or if I didn't want to do this, I could have done this instead. Because in order for me to start my Mongo, I just do Mongo. But in their command, they want me to do start Mongo, which is different than what I have. So I got two options. Either I will move this script and start my Mongo manually, or I added the command that matches for mine, which is Mongo. Makes sense for everyone? And now let's try that. If I try npm start, you see that? Because Mongo was the one that works for me. Good? Everybody's good? But I don't quite like this one. I'm going to go ahead and start my Mongo manually. And then deleted this command. And now I can run their npm start script, and that should be able to pull in the server. If you want to inherit some things out of this, here's what I want you to inherit. What I'm looking at to start these apps, I'm looking at the scripts. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. All right, so something running on port 3000, which is my other application. Let's see. Where's my other application? I think it's this one. I need to stop it. There you go. Okay, stop this one. All right, go back to my terminal again. And then we run the command. Boom. My development server is running. And it seems like it run the server perfectly good. And it's gonna take a second to load. Let's see if it spins. There we go. Got the apps running and up and running. Any questions? Everybody feel good? Okay. All right. So my advice to you guys: it doesn't matter what you do when you go to a work environment. You need to read out their scripts because that's what's gonna allow you to start the application. Okay. All right. So Is the issue on the home page, guys? Is the issue on the home page that you is the dashboard?
Yes, you have to log in first.
Okay, we have to log in first. Log in. Okay, that's fine. And I use Google. And I got quite a lot of Google emails. All of them for me, guys. Thanks. And I'm not a hacker, I promise. All right, so I have to log in first, and then what's the issue? Go to dashboard. Oops, I can click to. There you go. Okay, sweet. And then
Now, in the My Technology path, it's supposed to display the technology that the user
okay.
selected.
Okay. So it should, when you click, you see, when you click on this, it should be displaying to over here, right?
Wait, scroll
No,
down.
no.
Where's our button?
Okay, so that is hard coded.
Well, where's our button though?
It should be there, it's just like for some reason it's not
Okay.
showing. I don't know, because I have it here.
Okay.
Under the table?
Yeah, I have the button.
Yeah, you're gonna.
It's right, it's supposed to have a button next to the My Technology path.
Okay. Is
Can
it
you zoom out?
is it on the different branch?
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Right there. It's because it's, yeah.
Okay. And then now I
That's
can.
hard, yeah, that's hard.
Okay. And now what happened? What's the issue again?
You can select, just select some technology.
Okay.
and submit, and then pull up the console log. And you'll see that it comes back.
Oops.
In turn.
This is the object, right? Nope. Let's try it again.
No, number.
This one?
Mhm.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. So we console log. Here's the issue, right? When you were thinking about it, when I click, I got the data. It's on my console log, but it should be displaying here as well, right? And it's not displaying, right? Well, when we think about this, okay, we're like, okay, there should be something that happened. When I pick something, which is the data, the state should change. And what state should change? The state over here. All right, so let's investigate that. And here's one quick tool that's gonna be very helpful for you when you navigate it over an entire code base. You copy whatever you think that might be static, not something dynamic. Something you think that might be static. For example, I'm sure this is static. So I copy it and I head over my code base. You see this search feature? And I search it. And it takes me straight to where the component's at. And now I can click on the component. That's from the build. I don't need this one. It's gonna look a little bit not readable. So I need, let's see. Sounds like I need this one. You see that? That's it right there, right? You see that? I go straight inside where the issue should be focused on. And now, okay, I got the issue and I can go back to my main folder, which is I can see that this component is located under the dashboards, okay? But this is not where the issue is coming at. I mean, this is where the issue is coming at, but I need to investigate it a little bit further. What I mean by a little bit further, when we go back to the application state, when I choose this one, I need to go exactly, when I click on this, when I click submit, I need to see how this data is being handled. So I'm gonna go ahead and either choose path, search for it again, and it's over there. And this is where the data is being handled over here. And it's being handled over this function, which I'm assuming this is right? Okay, we'll see. And here's the issue. I'm hoping it is. All right, so let's see. Yeah, I guess it is the issue. Well, here's the issue then. hold on, let's double check one quick things. This function, it's, if I'm understanding, guys, this is what takes the value of whatever the user select. Is that right? This function. No, this is handle the close.
No, that just closes the motor.
Okay, which one handle the?
Form, but which I don't, is in a form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in a form,
It's in the form.
so it should be a form component.
Yeah.
What is? Do you guys have something different over choose path somewhere else? No.
No.
I
No,
think-
because we have a form.
Oh, there you go. That's the form right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, form. So we have
Okay.
a component called form as well.
Got it. All right. So let's see where this component is. It's located down here. There you go. Okay. I'm in the form. All right. So when we hit submit, where's the submit? There you go. And this is the one that's handling the data, right? Okay. All right. And this is where our issue's at. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Okay. And then this function, where is it? This function called handle submit, which is handle submit. And this is all the data that you guys are targeting. And it's, do you guys are updating the state? No. Okay, hold on. Success and everything. Event target. Okay. API user. So you're making some sort of. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me read. Believe it or not, guys, this is where the issue's at. Like, this is it right there. So you're calling this.
So what we are doing is when you submit the form,
Uh-huh.
whatever you selected, right, we are passing it to the database, MongoDB database,
Okay.
and then we are trying to retrieve that data from the database to display in the document.
Got it. So, okay, that's what I was thinking too. Okay, all right. So here is, and I'm assuming that's the data. Testing, right? Okay. All right. So that's the data. Okay, and then now. Let's double check this is the right data. Oops, something messed up. Okay, go to dashboard again. And then select this one. Okay. Yep. Oh. No. Because this is what comes from the database. But I need this. Sounds like this is it. All right, let's try it again. Go back to dashboard. Oops, what is this? Refresh. Okay, go back again. Select. Yep, so it's the check-in. Now, before I go any further, here's what I really want you guys, that I did. I go all the way to where the issue is happening and find out the main problems first before I focus over the displaying part, because the issue is when we do this, this is not updating, but this is not yet the issue. The issue is happening. I need to understand how the data is being processed over here. All right, now here's the issue. Okay, this is not the expected issue. This is the issue right there. Okay, so here's the issue. And back to the application state, okay? This state, it's only available to this component. Only. In order for it to be available through the entire component, it needs to be using Redux. But that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. The issue we're facing, this state, it's only available for this component. And what component is this? This is this form component. Like it's only available to it. Now the question is, how are we gonna if this state's only available for this component, the one that displayed the whatever we saw, it's another component, right? It's another component. Well, the question is, how are we gonna pass this data to the other component?
Send a callback function in the prompts.
Now, if you send a callback function to the prod, and we can do it together.
Time out though.
Oh, it's not my project.
No, it's okay, that's fine. No?
Time out. So when I sent it back to, okay, never mind.
That's fine. Okay. All right. Now, here's the interesting question, because we get in the data here, the state. It's only available to this component. But the other component needs this data. But they don't have the same state.
When you take that, or when you close that form,
Mhm.
to refresh the dashboard and then, open the console log,
Close the form, the model, which is closed. Refresh. Refresh it again.
this is what we know.
That's fine. And go to the dashboard, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Before I had a component did mount, or if the user were to go straight to the dashboard, upon it rendering, get make an API call
Request.
into the database and then get that information. So now it wasn't from the form component, it was from the dashboard that was making
Okay.
that.
That's fine. That should be good.
So I don't know, so in that dashboard page, that's where I have the Axios request.
To get the new updated value.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. That's okay. But I'm gonna show you guys some possible ways that you could get this done without having to do Redux, okay? When we think about different options, we got one option that's available because Redux will make the entire data available throughout our application, right? But we don't know Redux today. And if you guys, you can feel free to leave if you guys want to leave now, but if you want to see us fixing this issue, stay. Which I can tell you one thing, it's gonna be fixed. Okay? Alright, because that's what I love doing. But anyhow, the bottom line is you got one possible case. The possible case is store this into local storage or session storage, because anything that's stored inside local storage is available everywhere. That's one option. But let's see how we can make this component share similar data. I'm hoping there's a way. Let's see. Okay, go back to the data. All right, so the form is over here. And the other component, which was this component,
So here in Handle Submit, you're taking the form data and writing to the database. So I don't understand why we need to move that data to the dashboard at all. Because as you said, when you're on the dashboard, it's going to go read from the database.
Yeah.
So
The database on the dashboard, so I'm grabbing the information from the form, but then it needs, like, every time the user goes to the dashboard, it needs to populate right there.
For a new user, right, for example, you don't have anything in your database, right? So, if he or she mentor, they will go and select some technology for time, right? Which is
Okay.
going to the database.
that's an interesting challenge, right?
If they have something already in the database, it should be showing on the dashboard, it's from the database. Right?
what I'm saying is when the dashboard renders, it should go to the database and get whatever's there, even if there's nothing there.
Right, yeah.
Right.
So there are possible options. The first option, it's using local storage, but there's one issue. The second option is using his method. Every single time that you click, it saves it to the database and then fetches the data for the new stuff and then I'll put it, right? Let's quickly use local storage and display those data over there. How about that? All right, so I'm gonna head over the form and I'm gonna go here because this is where the data is being using. Local storage. So to do this, I believe it's with React. It's recommended to use Windows for any, like, it's interesting, I think. Look for any built-in module that's not part of the class. It's a little bit weird, but set item, which we're gonna call this one probably data, just for easy to work with. And we're gonna set it the state because the state is what's holding the new value. Okay, so now this is now available inside my local storage and over user tech, because user tech, it's what's displaying, where is it? It's what's displaying the data. And I'm gonna head over user tech. A few things that I need to do. This is a functional component, which means we cannot do any function. So we definitely need to convert this into a class component. User tech list extend react.component and then use render and use return, and then we can technically the other things called data, we could copy this here and bump it in there. We move this functional component now, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna, once this is render, we're gonna get the data from the local storage. Oops, this is called data, and we're gonna use window.localstorage.get item this time, and we're gonna use the data value, and this is gonna be equal to, I guess, to an object. And let's make sure that we are getting this data first. Okay, so here's the expected behavior now. When I click the function, I'm saving those values to local storage, right? And now, in user tech, when the page reloads, I'm getting those data back to the local storage. I haven't done anything with it. The only thing I'm trying to do now is, am I getting those data? Because if I can get them, I can just display them, right? Let's see if they're there. Okay, so everything load, go back again, choose path. I'm gonna choose MongoDB and then Mentor submit, okay? And close. Of course, they're not updated, and that's the issue. And when I refresh the page, go back.
I think you should not refresh the page. You have to click on dashboard one more time. Then I think I'm able to get the data every console.
Okay, so let's check our local storage. Is it in there? Let's see. There is some weird value over there. What is that? Okay, so the value wasn't stored inside local storage, which means this value hasn't been set to my local storage. And I'm assuming, let me check one last thing. Oh, hold on. So check-in should be the data. I'm assuming because I didn't parse it. JSON.parse. I think it's stringified to storage, some sort of weird stuff. All right, so let's try that out. Let's try that again. Okay, and dashboard, and then choose a path. Are you meant to submit? And now let's check application. It's not storing.
Sterling,
Uh-huh.
Can you comment the changes that you made? I'll show you how we can get the data in the console.
Okay, so
Actually, right, if you look into the dashboard page.js,
dashboard. Oops, sorry. You're talking about the component, right?
yeah, we have under pages, okay? Under pages.
Dashboard.
No, in the file explorer, yeah.
Okay, in the File Explorer,
Right. There's
Pages folder.
Pages folder. Where is that? Okay, there you go. So, there you go.
Dashboard page.js, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Just scroll down a little bit. We do have a function called, yeah, just scroll down a little bit further down.
Which is
Line number 37.
37. This one. Is that right? No.
We do have a function called the load preferences.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's do this because I think we technically getting really close. So the pages, I'm assuming it's what every single routing it's all about, right? Dashboard and all these other routing and different other things, right? Is that right?
The idea is that when you can click dashboard, it runs that dashboard.js.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that when you run that, you would do an API call back to the database using your user information to get that user's information and bring it back to display that user's information on the dashboard.
Okay.
And then if they want to add technologies, then they could add technologies through the button. And that should come back and display again on the dashboard.
Okay.
But I think when we were, the last night, I think some things got messed up in the repo.
Mm-hmm. No
So
problem.
now everything is in there now. I think some things got, when we like merged that last night, some things kind of got knocked out. And so you're kind of looking at half the code. Not all
That's
of it.
fine. That's fine. Let's do this. Let's just do a demo bumping those data on there. How about that? Now, guys, the good news is there. It's actually it was being saved inside the local storage. You see that? And now those data is available under the user tag. So the local storage function is working. And now to display this data, we only need to go inside the user tag, which is over here. And here's what we need to do because this is an object. I'm gonna have to loop through it. Check this one out. We're gonna loop through it. That's the key. Let's make sure we parse it. Sometime if you don't parse it into an object, it might cause some issue. So we're gonna parse the data into an object. And now we got the key and the value pair, which means that this data now is gonna be email. Cause hold on.
Not that. You're looking at the, aren't you looking at the data that you just got out?
Yeah,
From local, so you're looking at local storage.
correct. It sounds like we didn't get the right data.
Oh, that looks like the profile information.
That looks like the profile information because we didn't save the right data.
Profile.
No,
is in front of-
That's what you got.
That's what you selected, yeah.
We selected that last night. Yeah.
Okay.
No, we just selected that.
It seems like the data we save inside local storage is
Yeah,
the
it
wrong
is.
one. Is it the right one?
It's
I
right.
think so, it's the main
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, you click those.
That's the email
Yeah,
and
the email
mentees.
prompt, and then you click on those two, yes.
Okay, and then
The
oh,
user
okay,
profile,
got it. Okay,
yeah,
got it.
and
Okay,
Your selections are at the end.
Right,
got it. So everything that's true or things you want to display.
right.
Got it. Okay, I was like, okay. All right, so here's how we're gonna display them with React. We can actually do something very, very basic because this is an object. All right, so let's do that. We're gonna check this one out. I'm gonna set an array over here called mentees, whatever this is, or list. I'll call it list. And this is an array. And here I'm gonna check if anything is equal to true, which any key value. In this case, it's gonna be data. Oops. Let's just you know what? I'm just gonna parse it right here. So JSON that parse data. I'm gonna parse it right here, and now I can just use data. Okay, and I'm gonna say, all right, if the data key it's equal to true, because you only want to show the true one, right? And then if it's equal to true, I want to push them to the list. Push the key, because it sounds like the one that we want, it's equal to Menti. That's the key, and that's the value.
Right.
So we don't want the value, we want the key.
No, just, yeah.
All right. So we're gonna push every key inside this array, and this array is gonna, and this array is gonna be something like Menti and something like Mentor, right? And now once we do this inside our React down here, we can just do this. List, list.map, and then we just display them right here. And I think that's it, guys. Hold on. Okay. And we pass it, first we pass it the value, and then we pass it the index. And React require every single one of them to have a key. So we're gonna pass that index, and then we pass the value over here. And believe it or not, that's it. Here, you guys wanna test it?
Yes, please.
All right, one last thing I wanna do before I test it out. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think, okay, hold on. Okay, what happened? All right, so one issue, unexpected token, JSON.parse. Is that how you parse data, or am I misspelling something wrong? JSON.parse. Is that right? JSON parse. Yeah, that's how you parse data. Okay, hold on. So I do JSON.parse. Yeah. Oh, because oh God, I forgot something. It should be window.get it from the local storage. Local storage get item, and with the item we're getting is the data. I missed it, sorry guys. All right, let's try this out. All right, it seems like it doesn't break. Oops, hold on. That's something, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's try that. Okay, that didn't work as expected, because it should be console log in the Menti. And we have in one issue. Hold on. Because it should be console log in the Menti. Let's see if our if statement is working. Are you working? How about that? That's a good way to test it. All right, let's go to dashboard. Let's see if it's working. Oops, sorry. Nope, I don't think our if statement, it's working. Okay, so that's good. So that means that this logic, it's not the same, and the whole reason is because the true, it's a string. Check this one out. Let's see if that's the case. Okay, let's see. That would be quite interesting. Dashboard.
Hey,
Yep.
it's working.
You see that?
So I'm gonna push that back.
All right, so let's try it. Now, if I added, I'm gonna add a couple. It won't work because, you know, the local storage needs to have some sort of event, which we won't have time to do now. But if I come back to it, refresh the page, and then go up, refresh it again, and go back to the dashboard, and there we go.
How long we were doing this, we were like,
But
but that's not putting it in our actual user
Exactly, that's not
Just
putting
different
it
and
into
Right, but like for the,
exact
for the presentation, at least we could.
purposes. Now, there are different ways you can approach this. The way you need to think about it is, okay, when am I getting the data? I'm getting the data when I collect. That's okay. What are you doing when you could, you're getting the data? Okay, how would you like this data to process, to flow from one component to another? Do you want to post it to the database? If you want to post it to the database, that means when it goes to the database, it's in the cloud, right?
Yes.
But when it goes, your other places where you want to use it also to make a call to the database with the new data and
Yes.
get the new value. But the issue you guys were facing is because a state, it's only data inside of it is for this part of component itself. That's just one way. It's not the best way.
So it would have been better to try to use Redux,
Correct. Redux,
so that you
Re-
could pass the state.
exactly. Redux
Yeah, we didn't try to.
would have made this whole process so much easier.
Really? Didn't even think about that, cause, you know.
All right?
We didn't talk about that.
No,
We didn't
no.
talk about that.
I knew about it, I just, you know, I just didn't know how hard it would be to learn before. You know what I mean? 'Cause
You think it'd be
we didn't have a lot of
hard
time
to
for the
learn
project.
Redux? No, actually it would be quite, once you understand the concept of Redux, it should be easy for you to work with. Okay? All right, guys, this is everything for today. I know it's been boop and poop,
That's
but
it, great, that's good.
no problem. You guys enjoy and see you guys on Thursday,
All
okay?
right, thank you so much.
No problem.
Check the dashboard, but something is weird, okay? It's not in sync. Everything should be in sync.
Okay.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Well,
Season game.